Good morning, and I would like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Tayside Contract Joint Committee. I would also like to remind the Joint Committee that the public part of the meeting will be recorded and placed on the Tayside Contracts website for public viewing. Members should keep the microphone on mute throughout the meeting unless they are speaking. I will now ask the Clerk to take us through the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start by taking the roll call. Councillor Nicholl.
I'm here.
Councillor Fotheringham.
Present.
Councillor Cruikshanks.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
I've received apologies from Councillor Shepherd, and I believe Councillor Duff is here.
Present.
Thank you. And I've received apologies from... Oh no, Councillor Durno is here. Apologies. Councillor Durno.
Yeah, I'm here, but I will need to leave later on in the meeting. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Cuthbert.
I'm here.
Councillor Lane.
Present.
I've received apologies from Councillor McCall, so I believe Councillor Massey is here as a substitute.
Present.
Councillor Welch.
Present.
Councillor Forbes.
Good morning, I'm here.
Councillor Shires.
Present.
Councillor Mills.
Good morning, I'm here.
Bailey Roberts.
Morning, I'm here.
Councillor Short.
I'm here.
Councillor Scullen.
Morning, present.
Councillor Shears. Councillor Duncan.
Here.
That completes roll call. I'll take us to the next item. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? I don't see any indications, so I'll take that as no and move to item 3, minute of previous meetings. The minutes of the previous meetings of the 16th of June and the special meeting on the 23rd of June 2025 are submitted for approval.
Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. That takes us to item 3A. This was issued as part of the supplementary agenda. Change of membership and appointment on Vice Convener-elect from Dundee City Council. A is membership. This is to advise that Councillor Lee Mills has been appointed as a member of the Tayside Contracts Joint Committee as a replacement for Councillor Stephen Rome, who has resigned. Is this noted?
Noted.
B is Vice Convener-elect, and this is to advise that Councillor Lee Mills will be appointed as an office bearer of Tayside Contracts Joint Committee in the capacity of Vice Convener-elect as a replacement for Councillor Stephen Rome.
Can this be noted? Noted. Whitman. Councillor.
Just wondering how it's going to work with the appointment of the new operations director. Will that be Lee that will be doing that, or will it be somebody else?
Thanks very much, Councillor Cuthbert. My understanding of this process, this moment in time, is that the Councillor Short will be substituting for Councillor Mills in this process. The timetable was already set and availability was already registered in people's diaries.
Thank you for that. That's fine.
Thank you. So that takes us to item 4, quarterly performance update, quarter 1st of April 2025 to June 2025, and this is for noting.
Dougie, would you like to introduce this report?
Yeah, thank you, Convener. So, as has been presented with the papers, this sets out the quarterly performance, highlights challenges and progress for the period the 1st of April 2025 to the 30th of June 2025. And this is based on the performance dashboard, which was established in conjunction with the Joint Committee. So this is the second format of this particular report that we have presented to committee. The one area that doesn't cover, which is within the dashboard, is in relation to the financial performance, and the financial performance is picked up under Joint Committee report later on today, report number 20. So, as has been covered within the report under 4.2, 4.3, in fact, we have got some new committee members on. I just want to sort of reiterate, this is the report that was agreed following the establishment of the dashboard, covering some of the key performance indicators that were agreed. That is something that will be developed as time goes by. This report isn't intended to cover every single item within the dashboard. It's to try and pick up some key highlights, if there are any challenges, how we're actually addressing these. And as I reported back in June, I'm more than happy to take on board any comments round about the content, the format of the particular quarterly performance report, and similarly the dashboard. What we'll do is we'll not necessarily change these straight away every time, but I want to collate them and then convene the Joint Committee stakeholder group that brought this together so that we can then review. And my intention would be to wait for a full year and then we would implement anything that needed to be done. So just picking up some of the highlights from the report. So under section 5.1, school meal uptake, a couple of the areas there. So we were budgeted to have 1.47 million meals. We're just about there or thereabouts at 1.46, so 99% of meal uptake. A daily meal average of 25,000 or just under 26,000 meals, and our free school meal uptake covering both secondary and primary schools is 60.5. That 60.5 is something that has been growing annually since the 2021, so the introduction of the new school nutrition guidelines. So at that particular time, that was 50%. It has been growing annually since then. The one area with regards to the school meals, which isn't at the budgeted level, but not of any concern at this particular time, is in relation to school meals, particularly within the Perth and Kinross secondary school meal uptake. As has been reported, there has been an ongoing positive upward trajectory with regards to school meals within Perth and Kinross, both primary and secondary, between ourselves and our client partners within Perth and Kinross. At the start of the budget process, it was agreed to project these at that similar trajectory. It's just not quite been hitting at that particular level. What I would say is that this is the first quarter, so I wouldn't want to be reacting adversely to that. We've just come back again from and into a new school term where we have new first-year pupils coming in. We've done a lot of work with the first-year pupils coming in, and we hope across all three areas that will continue to show an upward trend with regards to the school meal uptake. A couple of areas just of what we are looking to do in relation to the school meals. So the promotion of that continues through our social media, service delivery, continuing to publicise what we have available on our Tayside Contracts Facebook page. We've also got the app that's available within the schools within all the three areas, which has been positively received. We have the working group, which is the school meal review, and they have an action plan, and there is a meeting scheduled of that particular group, I think early in September, so they will continue to review that action plan. Are the things that have been identified within that plan progressing, or is there any areas that we need to be picking up on? And finally, with regards to the school meals, it's just an ask for everyone, so elected members, officers, to continue to promote the positivity and the benefits of the school meals, both in the secondary and the primary establishment. With everyone's positive engagement with that, we believe that there can only be really an upward trend if we are all promoting that service, in particular around about the free school meals. In relation to the next part, just in regards the local suppliers. So I know this is an area that we've talked about on a number of occasions in relation to the school meals, the local suppliers in relation to then the provision of meals. Where we're at this moment in time, we've got a provision of our local spend at just under 35% against the target within our business plan of 44%. Similar to the school meals, this is Q1. This is a similar trend to what we've had year on year, and there's nothing that I would be anticipating that's not going to allow us to achieve that overall spend in relation to our external local suppliers. We have information within the dashboard that also relates to the specific food and drink supplies, and we are roughly about 80% of that. Now, I know how we've calculated that is in relation to just a postcode within the local areas. We will look to see, along with our providers, if we can refine that to get a bit more detail. We have, from some of our key suppliers, got information, for example, with regards where meat supplies, etc., that they bring in from the local area and across Scotland, but unfortunately you can't say that that's definitely going to be the meat or the produce that's specifically received into the establishments that we've got. So there is work in progress to be done there. I've given the commitment to do that. The team are looking at the options roundabout, engaging with local suppliers. One, to how we can maybe identify that a bit more effectively, but also how we can encourage local suppliers to come on. Next area, just round about health and safety. I'm pleased to say that although we don't want any accidents or incidents, there is nothing of concern coming through within the accidents. These are in a similar level to what they've been over the previous years. Overall 30 number with 4 RIDDOR accidents, so slightly below where we were the same position last year, and nothing of any concern from myself around about the health and safety. In relation to sickness absence, we covered that for the year at the last meeting. Our Q1 position is of a similar position. We are still on track to be with our KPI of 6.2% for the sickness absence. But as I said, this is early on within the year. What I've taken the opportunity to also do is just give some information in relation to other parts of performance. So part of this review of our information that came up to Joint Committee was the removal of reports. There was a number of reports that would normally come up to the August Committee. There was maybe a bit of surprise where there was only 3 from members. There would have been an additional 4 if we'd been looking at the previous information in relation to HR plus a workload report. So these have been combined within these quarterly performance updates and also our annual performance report. So a couple of points in relation to that under 6.0, our annual recruitment and retention. We are currently with our KPI sitting at 14.9% of annual turnover. We're slightly below that at the first point of 14.5%, and that's pretty much in the same position as where we were last year. As we've reported, recruitment and retention is a focus for ourselves within Tayside contracts. We have an action plan round about how we can address that and hopefully reduce that level of turnover. Within the report also picked up, which I think's something worth mentioning, round about our apprentices. So we've got a number of school leavers who will have finished and looking to go back. We have continued to deliver on our apprenticeship scheme. So within our road worker mechanics, we continue that particular process and have taken on, or are in the process of taking on 9 road worker mechanics. With regards to the mechanics road workers, with mechanics 3, which we're away to look to take on. And we've also started up with a street lighting electrical partnership, which relates to both mature candidates and, if you want to say, young candidates. We've approached that from the mature candidate row at this current time, and we'll look to progress that in future. And the other thing I just wanted to pick up in relation to that particular part is with our ongoing approval and accreditation for the accreditation of being a young person's a provider. So really positive stuff round about the recruitment and retention, as well as the challenges of continuing to have new employees coming through. In relation to 6.1, 610, our training development. So just to highlight within the report that we are continuing to invest in our existing employees. This is absolutely essential for just ongoing accreditation, but also for development of those that are coming through. Under 6.12, we've continued our High Confidence Centre accreditation, and that's for the qualifications and awards that we are already accredited to deliver. So these are detailed within the report. And we also retained our investors and people, which is something that we are very proud of, and are continuing to work through the actions within that particular audit. So that was the key points I wanted to pick up from the report, convener. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Dougie, for that. Questions? We have Councillor Short.
Yeah, it was just a quick inquiry with regards to the new school that opened on last week. Just obviously come together of two schools, and it was just if we could drill down into the dashboard, or is it something that would need to be specifically looked out for, Doug? That was all.
In what respect, Councillor Short?
In terms of making sure that the pick-up as it should be with regards to the school meals. There's not a lot of shops around the area, and it was just to see if it was an opportunity to provide the meals, pretty high percentage there.
Yeah, the meal service was established. I think they were available for delivering meals on Friday. To be able to combine with what was previously Braveview and Craigie High into the new Grenfell, I think would be a bit of a challenge. But from an operational side and with council partners, that level of detail is looked at. It wouldn't be something that, I've been honest, we'd be looking to go to that level within the dashboard. The fact we can drill down for each of the council areas to primary, secondary for their particular area, I think was what was agreed. But we will continue to promote that. I would say that I've seen a social media post for I think there's a Drumgeeth at the Drumgeeth facility. They have a cafe where they were promoting for some of the kids, etc., to come in and having a look at the menu. Not quite what we're able to provide. So although not lots of local suppliers, there are some round about who are still touting for business.
And I suppose they've got Asda's up the road. I just didn't like to go far when I was in school. I just wanted to stay at the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, convener, and thanks, Dougie, for the report. I've got two questions, but I'll come back on the second one. The first one's really, it was raised by Councillor Forbes at our latest Climate Change and Sustainability Committee, and it was around do Tayside contracts monitor the food waste and that. And my recollection was, I think we did talk about it and we were doing it as a pilot maybe, but it was just to get an update. And Councillor Forbes was here today, and it was a very valid question. So I was just wondering if you could answer that for both of us, really.
Yeah, no problem. As you're right, both in saying we had a school meal plate waste project. That has been concluded. There's been a draft report pulled together from that by all those involved. That's something that's going to be getting fed into the Tayside Facilities Partnering Group, just as a review, and something that I'll be looking to bring back to committee to give you an update on where things are with that. Overall, there was a positive engagement there. So the various stages of all those involved across the three council areas, that with that positive engagement, plate waste was reduced. What the initial findings identified was that was better where there was that all sort of overarching support right the way through the school, from the head teacher through the assistants, etc., to be able to do that. So we have concluded that. We've got a draft report prepared, and I'll bring that forward in the future.
Thanks, Dougie. And if we could just follow up with that, obviously you need to collaborate with the school itself, because once you hand over the meal to the young people, that's really Tayside contracts end of their role, and would it be not be the schools, etc., that would have to monitor the waste or working collaboratively to find out what the waste is, and would that feed into how the meals are presented, or how or what's the constituent parts of each meal if you find that there's more waste from one of the meals than others?
Yeah, I think that's all part of the process. I don't have the detail round about that. I just know that from the sessions were round about the awareness of food waste and the impact that food waste has on the environment and what you can do round about that. So the challenges, it was undertaken in 3 stages. So anything that we can get back from that, and if there's then a further follow-up of what we want to do to possibly roll that out wider across the areas, I would say that would be something that would come out of an ongoing action plan.
Thank you for that. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, convener, and thanks to Councillor Lang for asking my first question for me, but I'll move on to my second one. And it's regarding our meat-free days, and I think if I read the menu correctly, the first day back, certainly for Perth and Kinross pupils, was one of our meat-free days. And as you know, Dougie, I have some concerns about this, and it was my intention to bring a motion today to vote whether we continue with meat-free days or not. But as you rightly pointed out to me when we met a couple of weeks ago, that there would be some consequences to making that decision, and it's not fair to ask members to vote on something when we don't know the full facts. So, Dougie, can I ask you to have a look at that for us, and perhaps either send out or put onto the next agenda the implications of voting to cancel the meat-free days completely? The other thing that concerns me is our association with ProVeg, which, as far as I can tell, are some kind of political lobbying group, and I'm really not comfortable with the language that they're using in their promotional videos towards young people. And I'd also like to, at some point, have elected members take a vote on whether we continue our association with them or not. So Dougie, my question's pretty straightforward. Would you be able to put together some facts and figures for us on both of those things? Either send them out by email in advance of the next meeting, or put it on the agenda so we've got all the information, and if we're so minded, we could take a vote on that.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to pull information round about our process of how our menu is developed. So meat-free days, as I've said and I've confirmed through other meetings, isn't new. It's something that we've actually introduced back in 23-24, and not something just off for Tayside contracts, because that's something we wanted to do. It was tying in with the Scottish Government agenda of looking at alternatives to the use of meat. So I know there's a focus on red meat, and that's specifically within the guidelines of limiting that, but actually trying to move away from what would be the normal ways of, if you want to say, providing meals, either through the use of meat, red, white, so poultry, fish, etc. comes within that. And other sources of nutrition, which say plant-based. So these are areas that we need to look at. And what I would suggest is, as part of information and feedback, is on how that ties into these things. If you want to say those guidelines that we've got coming through from Scottish Government, what the aspirations are within some of the councils. So you've mentioned there around about food waste, there's about climate change impact, what that has with regards to the meals that we're delivering. I think we've also got to give that consideration to, if you want to say, future engagement with other local authorities. I would say out of the 32 local authorities, we are not unique. So as part of Tayside contracts, 3 authorities plus another 16, so 19 of the 32 local authorities already have either 1 to 4 meat-free days within their menu, and that's something that we've got to consider if we were looking for, if you want to say, additional revenue streams. Can we provide that? Because what we're not able to do, right, okay, or becomes challenging, is to tailor a menu to every single provider. One of the things that Tayside Contracts is looking to do when we're promoting our meals is to say this is full, rounded, approved, healthy, nutritious, compliant meal service, and looking for them to take that on board. So that's on that particular side, with regards to Pro-Veg, again, we can come back and I'm quite happy to provide information in relation to that and other, if you want to say, accreditations that have been and are out there. So what I would say is that we have previously, that committee here, talked about accreditation through the Soil Association and the benefits, pros and cons round about that, and what you've got to do to be able to be compliant with the Soil Association. I would say that Soil Association accreditation requires you to have meat-free days. So these are the things that I think we need to make sure that all the facts and information are presented to allow an appropriate decision to be made by committee. If we continue as we are with the type of menu that we've got, or as you're suggesting, that there is a meat option available every day, I think is what you've asked for.
Thanks, Dougie. I wasn't really planning on getting into the debate on it today, so I'm happy to get all that information from you in advance of the next meeting, and then we can, as elected members, we can make that decision when the time comes. But I think it's important to recognise that Scotland produces some of the best meat in the world, and we've got the highest animal welfare standards that goes along with that. So I think we need to set the train and not necessarily say, well, other local authorities are doing this, so we should too. But that's a debate for us to have when the time comes. So I'm really grateful for you. I'm willing to put the effort in to get that information to us all. Thanks.
Yep. What I would say is I can again maybe touch base with yourself and the convener round about being available for the meeting if that's absolutely critical. I've been looking at these, so this is a short agenda item. I don't want to frighten all members, but based on historically, we've got something like 13 papers that are potentially already coming up to the next meeting, which includes things like annual accounts. I want to make sure that there's the appropriate time to be able to consider these things. So that's maybe just round about the timing of it is something that I would welcome just a discussion on.
I'm totally comfortable with the time, and Dougie, I'll leave that in your hands, and I'll be as flexible as we need to be. Just important to me that we get it on the agenda and we can have a discussion and a decision. Thanks.
Right, on to the next question. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener, and thanks for the report. You say that the turnover issue with staff at whatever 14.9% is a challenging area. That does seem quite a high turnover rate. I just wondered, how does it vary between the different sectors of the business? So is it specifically construction staff, or does it affect the food processing side, or is it crossing patrollers or janitorial staff? How does it vary across the sort of the business?
There is a variance between both of you, say the construction side and the facility side. There is definitely a higher turnover within the facility side, where there is the shorter hours, the types of contracts that we offer tends to be higher within that. We have got a higher level than we have in the past within the construction division, but it has actually settled down slightly. And what I would say is the levels of turnover that we're talking about here are not dissimilar to, if you want to say, others within the sort of the same field within local authorities, etc. When we look at this, so I would say on the facility side of things, particularly around about the cleaning, there tends to be a sort of a higher turnover there, just because, as I say, the type of jobs. But we do look at that as a further breakdown, and as I said, we have a recruitment retention action plan to be able to focus on if there is any particular key areas. So things like exit interviews that we undertake, engagement with managers to find out if there's anything specific that's causing people to be able to, or causing people to be able to leave. So just give that reassurance. It's not just looking at the number. We do have the information that allows us to drill down and see what we can do to mitigate against that.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that response.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, Councillor Duff asked the first question that I was going to ask, but also the other thing that I wanted to find out a bit more about, can you expand on the new apprenticeship programme for the street lighting, when that is likely to begin, and also how many apprentices you would be looking for each sort of area, Angus?
So for the electrical apprenticeship, this is something new that we went into, and as I said, it was from there's the ability for an adult apprenticeship. So what we've looked at the structure within Tayside contracts, and we have things what we call highway electricians and public lighting operatives. So that's specific to those particular areas. So we have about 5 employees who currently sit within that, to be able to get them up to a standard of the electrical, fully electrical side of things. So that's the first focus at the moment. And then what we're looking to do is to offer out that opportunity to, if you want to say, the traditional school leaver, the younger. So we've approached it from the mature side of things to begin with. I don't have numbers specifically what we're targeting. I think we would probably be talking about maybe 1 or 2 of bringing, if you want to say, apprentice electricians in. But it's at the early stages of what we're introducing, but we want to build on that with ourselves internally and with colleges.
I'll just come back, convener. Yeah, it was just obviously because I am aware that, you know, the numbers are quite thin on the ground in the street lighting department, so it would be good if we could see more numbers. Yeah.
There is that challenge and balance of having, so you've got to have somebody who can mentor them. So it's the sort of the chicken and egg. So if we can get some of our own up to that particular standard, it's a change of approach that we've taken, then we can see, right, okay, who we can come in to be able to support them.
Thank you. Councillor Ling.
Thanks, convener. I'm pleased to see the 200k spent on training and development. I think that's always a good spend. I was just wondering how much we're spending on AI, Dougie, and how many licenses we're purchasing and etc.
Within Tayside contracts, we've not got a budget allocated to AI at the moment. In regards the use of AI and any licenses, we are utilising, if we do need to, what's available. So through the Microsoft 365 suite of tools, Copilot is the one that is being used. We are linking in with the 3 councils, so know that some of the councils have actually put specific investment, Perth and Kinross being one, in relation to the spend on AI, and we've got an agreement rather than everyone, if you want to say, reinvent their own wheel, of making sure that we are sort of working and collaborating together to get the best use out of it and learning. So through our IT links, through our human resources links, etc. within that, whatever it is appropriate within the 3 council areas and Tayside contracts, I've got a keen eye on how AI can assist us going forward.
Okay, that sounds a sensible way forward.
Thank you. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Dougie, just kind of following on actually from what Councillor Ling's just raised, 5.13 references cyber attacks, and it is great to see that you have managed to join up with the Cyber Security Centre, but maybe you don't want to talk about this given this is a public meeting, but I wondered if Tayside contracts had ever been on the receiving end of a cyber attack, and if any damage was done under those circumstances. Appreciate you may not want to discuss it in public. I'll understand if that's the case.
No, but all I can say is that I've got to say a formal cyber attack that's had a breach. Tayside contracts hasn't had a cyber attack. As we're all aware, there has been some with a couple of local authorities lately, and with the co-op, etc. So we are acutely aware of the potential issues round about that, but nothing, if you want to say, that we are aware of. And that's testament to the IT team and all the measures they have in place to mitigate against that. So I suppose it's one of these things. It's like having an insurance policy or something in place to prevent something happening. So like preventative maintenance, not letting your car break down, you get it managed and maintained properly. Hopefully it doesn't break down. It's maybe not quite the same analogy, but if you've got the systems, etc. in place to prevent these attacks the best you can, then you're not going to be getting attacked. So that's where we are within Tayside contracts. I'm touching wood because you probably just jinxed us that we're going to get some form of attack now. There's a challenge.
Well, apologise if that's the case. Thanks, Dougie.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more questions? If there's no more questions, is this report noted? Noted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That takes us to item 5, internal audit outcomes from reviews 2024-2025, and this is for noting.
Again, Dougie, would you like to introduce this report?
Okay, thank you, Convener. What I've got with me is Dan Kidd. Dan's our Strategic Lead Finance and Governance, so I'm going to hand over to Dan just to go over the internal audit report. Okay.
Thank you. So this report advises members on the outcome of our internal audit reviews that were carried out in 24-25. The annual report is included in Appendix 1. And Henderson Logie have concluded that Tayside Contracts has adequate and effective arrangements for risk management, control and governance, and proper arrangements are in place to promote and secure value for money. The audit follow-up report, there's a summary table, Table 1, that shows out of the 18 recommendations which were past their due dates, 8 are fully implemented, 8 were partially implemented, and 2 were considered but not implemented. The estimating, construction, job costing and material purchasing audit, the auditors concluded that Tayside Contracts has a satisfactory level of insurance, which means that the system meets control objectives with some weaknesses present. Similarly, for the debtors and income audit, they concluded a satisfactory level, and external relations was a good level of assurance where the system meets control objectives. Within the annual report, there is a draft operational plan for 2025-26. We do have a meeting with the internal auditors to discuss this and finalise the scope in more detail, and we'll provide the annual plan to the next joint committee. Convener, we have Steve McNaught from External Audit present today. Can I pass to him to add anything else that I might have missed there? And I'm happy to take any questions as well.
Yes, okay. Steve, if you could add to that.
Yep, thanks, Convener. Yeah, I think Dan's did a very good job there of succinctly summarising the internal audit activity for the year. Yes, the estimating and the debtors reports noted several weaknesses, which are really opportunities for improvement, is probably a better term, those items. But overall, with the internal audit reviews this year, we are comfortable with the internal control environment at Tayside Contracts. We are satisfied that the management responses to the actions that we raised in each of the internal audit reports is appropriate, and that action will be taken forward, and it will be subject to follow-up review, of course, during the 25-26 years, just to make sure that those actions are being progressed satisfactorily. In conclusion, I would say, our audit opinion is stated in the annual report there, and we have no issues with the internal control environment and arrangements for value for money, etc. For the operational plan, yes, we have a draft operational plan there, and as Dan said, we're going to meet with management and discuss that. That plan was set at the time of the 3-year audit needs assessment being established. So that's a point in time plan. Of course, things change. That plan needs to be flexible. And if priorities change and new areas need to be reviewed during 25-26, that will be reflected in the new internal audit plan for the coming year. But I am more than happy to take any questions on any of the findings in that report.
Thank you very much for that. On to questions now. Craig Duncan.
Yes, thanks for that. Just a quick question. The report mentions that 2 recommendations were considered but not implemented. And just really for purposes of the record, could we have a bit more detail about what they were and why they were not implemented? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So those actions related to the previous stock management report. If you look in the annual report, table where we have the follow-up actions. You'll see the report 2024-03 stock management. You'll see the 2 recommendations considered but not implemented. And that was really because as part of that audit, we included 1 recommendation that was really trying to, this is an improvement action for tracking the stock issuing. And subsequently, it was discovered that actually the system that's in place can't be developed to provide that functionality. So it's not that Tayside contracts don't want to implement it, it's just limitations within the existing systems. There's a control that used to be in place in terms of issuing stock from stores under the previous system, computer system, but after an upgrade, the functionality was removed. So our recommendation was really just that let's get back to that improved visibility of who you're issuing stock to from stores. We explored the way of doing that electronically through the existing computer system. Unfortunately, that isn't possible, so that recommendation has lapsed. The other one was that there was a recommendation regarding the excess materials which sits in stores. However, the report that we did this year within estimating construction picked up again on the issue of the excess materials. So really that recommendation was superseded by the new action raised in the recent estimating construction report.
Is that answers for you?
Yeah, partly, yeah. I mean, I can understand that, it wasn't possible for technical reasons, it would appear, to take one of the recommendations forward. But does that mean that we're comfortable that there is no problem that we ought to be addressing, though?
So the issue was about how do you track materials taken from the actual stores itself? Previously, in years gone past, that would have been a physical paper chitty that would have been issued from the stores, and that piece of paper would then fall through the organisation that gets the finance. That in itself has got a lot of weaknesses in terms of bits of paper going missing, not getting recorded. The computer system used to have a field to capture the name of the person receiving the stock, and it'd get allocated to a job, and they'd get a copy of the printout, and that name would stay in the system. So all that is gone. We noticed there was a gap there. People are still receiving materials from stores, but that physical trail isn't there anymore. We'd suggested that you develop a field within the system where you record the person who's taking the items. That can't be added. However, there's still an audit trail of that. The materials still get booked against a job number. All the purchases and materials issued against that job number are still getting reviewed by the supervisors in construction. And then there is also a high-level review of the spend against each job within the management team. So there are still controls there. And the action that we did raise to maybe improve the visibility of the issuing of materials, it wasn't to address a significant control gap. It was perhaps more of a consider this to improve your existing processes. However, there is still an adequate audit trail there to show materials being issued. So it's not as if the process is completely weakened. There is still a strong process there. It was really just an action to consider improving the issuing of materials from stores. I would say also that since the time that recommendation was raised, there have been changes in staff within the stores coordinator, and the discussions that we had with them during the estimating construction review provided us with more assurance that the internal controls and processes are constantly being improved under the new staffing that's in place. So we are quite comfortable at this point in time that the processes within stores are being strengthened.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll not detain people very much further, but it sounds to me like there are controls, but not as good as what we could have been looking at. Is that fair to say?
There are controls. controls, and they're being strengthened. They're not weakened to the point where they put the whole control environment at risk.
Convener, as I said, all I want to do is give committee assurance that this isn't the first time that, if you want to say, through an upgrade, that functionality of a system has actually maybe taken a step back rather than a step forward, which is unfortunate. And as Stephen has said, that we always continue to review our processes to see, if there's things that can be strengthened, and just give that reassurance that we will continue. So if there's something that we're looking at in the future, if it was, for example, a new system, but this is tied in with our financial system, so unlikely, but if there's opportunities to feed in to be able to get upgrades, these are the sort of things that we could ask to be reintroduced. So there's a balance here between commissioning somebody to spend money to get, in effect, a system that's altered just to meet your own needs, and is that proportionate to what the risk is? And I suppose on this particular occasion, in liaison with the auditor and ourselves, going, that's not something that we see was proportionate. But we will always look to see if there's anything that we can do that's going to add in that additional value and strengthen anything, as Stephen has said.
Thank you for that, Dougie. Councillor Grant-Lang.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I don't really, I hear the sort of explanation given, but if we bring in an auditor and they have 18 recommendations that they think at that time we are not doing as well as we could, the reason surely were explained before they put in their initial report, so they would know why these things. So I don't know why on a review we find out that it's functionality of a system that's causing it. That would have been explained, I would have thought, when the reviews get done, maybe not. But we've only actually done 56% of these recommendations fully. So that's my concern as somebody who's sitting here on the committee board. That at one point, these 18 recommendations were past their date that they were meant to be done, and we've only done 44% of them fully. Surely the recommendations, if we saw them all, we'd be concerned about them. And to say, well, as the auditor has recommended we do it, and then the auditors turn around and said, well, because you can't do it, it's not really a problem, I find concerning.
Yeah, Dougie, you got an answer? Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you look at the grading of the recommendations, if you look at the follow-up report itself, there's 18 recommendations initially raised. We're saying that 8 of those have been fully implemented. 2 circumstances have changed where those recommendations are either cannot be achieved or are no longer relevant. Now, to take your point about if we raise a recommendation, surely that should be followed through, and if management say it can't be done, why are we accepting that? The original recommendation was a grade 3, and it was more about you can improve. This is a like to have, if you like, and it will improve the efficiency. It's not a grade orange or a grade red recommendation that says you must implement this because the controls at severe risk of being degraded. So with a grade 3 recommendation, if we feel that there are alternate controls or information that's available to give us some level of comfort over the process, then we can accept the fact that it hasn't been fully implemented. And that was the case with that original stock management recommendation. There are other processes in place. There are controls, not saying there's no controls, it's just that particular aspect of that control could be strengthened. It's not essential, it could be strengthened. However, on review, it was considered that we couldn't do that. Now, that review included Tayside contracts going back to the system vendor to look at how that could be built into the system, and it wasn't possible. That wasn't known at the time of the audit. Had it been known, we probably wouldn't have raised the recommendation. maybe included just an observation. Of the 8 actions which are graded as partially implemented, so we look at that, we look at the progress, and we consider whether the management's response is adequate there. Now, of course, between the time of raising the recommendation and the time we do the follow-up, circumstances may change. Other priorities may appear that put progress of some recommendations maybe slows it down a little bit. So we've considered all of that. And whilst, yes, the completion date has been pushed back, we are still comfortable with those review dates. And we are still comfortable with the level of progress that is being made. So had we thought that either the completion date, the revised completion date, had been pushed too far back, or sufficient progress wasn't being made, we would have flagged that up in this report as a critical in terms of putting control objectives at risk. But however, we are still comfortable at that point in time of putting that report together that the controls and the progress being made were satisfactory.
Thank you very much for that reply.
No, I'd like to come back on that. Thanks, convener. You know, I feel it's strange how the goalposts can change from something needs to be done to be to not, no matter what level of recommendation, and we can't do anything but we say, oh well, actually the system that is there and somebody new's come into position that's taking the risk away or reducing it. So I'd really like, this isn't the time to go in it, but I'd really like, maybe I don't understand audit and audit trail, so maybe we could have a specific meeting on this to talk it through so that I can understand it before I'm happy signing off uncompleted, partially completed, etc. things. And Diane knows I had to phone earlier to get the report changed where it said that everything, there was 2 contradictory statements in it. So I think I'd like to maybe speak to you, Dougie, and Diane sometime about it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Could you hang on a minute, Mr. Councillor Massey? I'm going to bring in Paul to reply to that question.
So thanks, Chair. So as proper officer to the Joint Committee, it's my responsibility to ensure that the controls in respect to in control of the controls that are in place in respect of internal audit are appropriate. So I'm reassured through what the auditor says in terms of the other controls that are in place with regard to this particular area, but also the comfortable with the level of progress that's made in relation to all audits. So notwithstanding what Councillor Lane has just said, I wonder whether it would be appropriate, rather than wait till the next annual report, the officers take this report away, perhaps review those areas where there has still to be made actions still to be taken to fully address these audit recommendations, and perhaps bring that information back to a future board committee.
That sounds good. Does that sound all right, Dougie?
Yeah, Convener, that's something we're more than happy to be able to do. I think for me, and Stephen can confirm, of those ones that have been partially, it is predominantly dates. So as I said, it's been time pressures. We've been through quite a significant number of changes, a restructure. We've been, you know, not looking to give excuses, but it's not that we've said that these are no longer appropriate. Apart from the 2, and Stephen has given his reasons and justification for that, it's ourselves having to realign based on the priorities that have come in, and getting that agreement with the auditor that's fair and reasonable. So it's not that we've got that without knowns. That's 18 recommendations. I would like to have had information here to say of 100, right? Okay, we were 18, right? Okay, so that we had actually implemented, you know, 80% of the recommendations, and we only had, you know, 20 that were out with their dates, and we had been actually progressing 8 of them, and another 8 had to go. But that's maybe just a lesson from us on giving the information appropriate to the committee to give that context as well.
Thank you, Dougie. Sorry for the wait, Councillor Massey. You can go next.
Right, thank you, convener. I'm looking at 512, the main findings of the report, and particularly at one of the weaknesses. It says the weakness, the authorisation process for raising of invoices and credit notes could be strengthened. Since the report, has there been any strengthening of the raising of invoices and credit notes?
I can answer that one. Yes, there has been. We've been able to speak with the system providers, and we've built in an extra process, so that's now happening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, is this noted?
Thank you. That takes us to...
Sorry, convener, just to interrupt here.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, was it earlier on that we were saying that this report was being deferred to a future meeting to come back to allow examination of some elements of it, or are we agreeing to note this report at this moment in time?
My understanding was that what the proper officer, Paul Thompson, had suggested was that we can give an update. I didn't think it was about not providing the information, that was contained within the report, but just strengthening on what we have done through future reports. I may be wrong if that's not the ask from yourself, Paul, and the other committee members.
Paul, could you reply to that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to clarify, my suggestion was indeed to note the report as it has been submitted, but to come back with further information for committee, just to provide that further reassurance in terms of any recommendations that have yet to be implemented.
Right. Is it to be noted, or sorry, there's another hand up.
Yeah.
Councillor Lang.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm happy with Paul. I'm happy with the commitment, as long as it doesn't put us under any situation where we're saying we haven't got enough information, basically, and we're asking for more. And then we're noting, I'd like to take advice from the officer here, that we're not, as committee members, signing something off whilst asking for more information. So I just want clarity that that's okay to do that before I'm willing to agree the report.
Dougie, or sorry, Paul.
So thanks again, Chair. So thanks for your comments, Councillor Lane. So happy to give that reassurance, and in terms of we're okay to note the report, and we'll come back with that further clarification in due course.
Right then, is that noted?
Councillor Cuthbert has his hand up.
Councillor Cuthbert.
It may not be showing on your screen, or you can't see it possibly. My own feeling is that we should perhaps have this come back to committee as another paper in November with an update on where things are actually at, to say that they have been completed and where they haven't been a reason given for it. I think if it comes back as a paper in November, then we can see where things are at.
Would that be in order?
Yeah, but I'm happy to bring it back as a paper, or as some of the, this is a question that could be presented here, of a follow-up with, this is the actual points as an update through committee. As I said, we've got the balance here between information that's coming up to committee was requested, right, okay, for noting to be reduced and to be given assurances. So again, I'm quite happy to liaise with the office bearers round about. Does this come as a report, or if we get updates in relation to this, and for example, given an update through the joint committee via an email update?
Steve, do you want to come in with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it needs a full report, but what we do for a lot of other clients is we have just an internal audit action tracker. So you get that the formal follow-up report is done annually, but in between times, you do it quarterly or 6 monthly. It's a simple spreadsheet with outstanding actions that haven't been completed. So in this case, the 8 actions, and we would just include a column that says current progress. Now, if we're coming back to, if we bring that to November joint committee, then you'll actually see that some of the actions will be near their completion date or past their completion date per the paper there. So that might show that the majority of the actions are near completion or have been completed. That might be something that members would be interested in. Maybe that gives them the level of assurance that things are being progressed.
Thank you.
Chair,
Maureen.
apologies. I see the clerk to the board has a hand up. Can I suggest that? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wonder, might it be a solution to note the paper in respect of those recommendations that have been approved and bring back a further paper in respect of ones that are outstanding? Might that be an acceptable alternative?
That could be acceptable. What's the general consensus on it? Councillor Ling's in favour. Paul Thompson's in favour. So everybody in Chambers is in favour. So can we do that?
Yep.
That's grand. On to the next item.
Thank you. The next item is item 6. This is to advise that the next meeting of Tayside Contract Joint Committee will be held in the Council Chamber, the Town and County Hall, across Forfar, and also remotely on Monday, the 17th of November 2025 at 10 a.m. Thank you. We're now moving on to the confidential part of the agenda. Are we happy to exclude press and public and stop the recording for this part?
Is that agreed? I would now ask that all members of the press and public who are present now to leave the meeting and